Okay, let's start with reloading some 223s. Now we've already put our primers in here, we've already done our shells. Some of these may not have the case mouths exactly right. It happens as you're trying to run off a bunch of brass. What we're going to do is load up 1.6 cc's of 4895 powder into each one of these using our lead powder measures. Some people are more exacting with this than I am. This is a powder measure that's very forgiving as far as the amounts that you should be using. If anything, this is going to be an undercharge, slightly undercharge. Not undercharge, but not overcharge. And you see what I did right there? By not paying attention, I almost double loaded that. Okay, so without talking too much, I'm going to go ahead and continue to do these. Get these loaded up. We've got 50 of them here on this tray. This is also a Lee Universal shell holder. Actually a shell case holder for reloading. And these will hold 45s, 9 millimeters. I don't think they'll hold the 50 Beowulf, but they're pretty close to it. You can see the powder measure that we're using here. I'm getting right up to the very top of that every time, making sure that all the powder goes inside. Try your best not to lose concentration where you're at, as far as having somebody come in and start chatting with you a little bit, because it can lead to some issues down the line. What you need to do is, after you get these loaded, we will take about we'll take a random sampling and take maybe 10 of these rounds out and either weigh them, or we'll take them out and shoot them, and we'll see how they're performing. That 10 random sample may be out of 500 rounds that we load or something like that. Maybe if we want to, we'll take 1 out of 10, depending on what we think we may have done, what type of brass we're using or whatever. And this is reloaded once fired brass that I've checked out and primed and prepped by cleaning it up and de-priming it, making sure the primer pockets are clean. And I'm not too concerned with overall case length on the first time of once fired brass. When you get into your bigger calibers, you may want to be concerned about that a little bit and check them for your overall length. Make gauges to do that with, and you have a trimmer that you can trim those cases down with to get them the right length. Very important for you to go ahead and examine this brass once you begin to fire it. Make sure that there's no expansion problems with too much pressure from the load that you're using. Making sure that it's chambering properly. You've got the proper set overall length for your cartridge. Making sure also that your bullet seated to the right depth. If it's seated too deep, you can cause pressure problems. You can also cause failure to feed problems. Now we're only doing 50 of these right now because we did 50 a while ago, and that's enough for the night. We're going to get inside and spend a little time with the wife, which everybody needs to do. And this can't become an obsession with you. It can, but you don't want it to be. Because it's fun, it's easy, it's something you can accomplish. And just by walking outside right now after you get this reloaded, one of them reloaded, put it in your firearm and discharging it, and you see that it works, and it really is good. Now what I try to do anyway, as soon as I get this stuff cleaned up a little bit, I want to make sure that my powder stays in good shape, stays dry, etc. And keep everything locked up tight, closed up like this. You can see we had one accident and lost a little bit here the other day. Okay, now our die is set up here, our bullet seating die and crimping die it's a bullet seating die. It's not really necessary to crimp these because they have a cannulature on them. I'm settling them down in there, and this will roll crimp it by itself. So without further ado, we'll start reloading. These are 223 55 grain, and because they're the 55 grain and not the 62 grain is why we were using the powder measure that we were using. Lee has a good set of books that you can use to do the calibrations on. Hornady makes a great book. There's a lot of good reloading books out there. I suggest you get a book, and I suggest you do some research before you get started on the stuff, and get on some forums and talk with some people, and just see what you're doing right, see what you're doing wrong, and get some good advice, because there's people out there who have been doing this for a long time, and they know a lot more than I'll ever know about it. I've also broken into casting my own bullets, casting my own rounds, and that's another part of this reloading for fun, and in case things get to a point where we're not able to get our supplies too readily, too easily. You can reload a round about 4 or 5 times a brass. Like I say though, after you get it fired, range brass in particular, if you get that, pick it up, go through it. I suggest you buy it from a company that does processing, because you're more likely then to get good brass. It's been inspected by quality people, and then of course there's no substitute for inspecting it yourself, because you're going to be the one ultimately responsible for firing that ammunition in your firearm. And once fired brass is a little bit cheaper than regular brass, easier to obtain sometimes, but you're talking about a 50-cent shell and a $600 firearm that can ruin your firearm. Now I'm working off of a single stage press here. This is the RCBS. It's a little nicer press than the Lee's. It's heavier made. Will last you a little bit longer. Much more expensive, but the good thing about it is the dies are all universal in these pieces of equipment. And like I did, started out with Lee and most of my stuff, and most of it still is, but I've been able to go ahead and accumulate a little bit of RCBS stuff as we go along. This particular die here, this press, is a single stage press, but with the proper shell holder and the proper dies, you can do 9mm, 45s, 50s, 50 Beowulf, your 308s, 30-06s, 7.75 Japanese, 6.5 Japanese, 6.8 Grendel. You can do an awful lot of them on here. This is a good universal rifle or pistol. And we lost one while we were talking. That happens too. While you're on a roll, I like to stay on the roll and not stop. And I will go ahead and pick that one up. Try to save my powder and finish reloading that after I get these finished up. Down to about 2/3 of them now, I guess. And it's basically a matter of just repetition and making sure that you're doing everything the right way, the same time, the same way all the time. Once you get the rounds down properly so that they're close to factory as you want them to be, you can start to experiment a little bit if you want to. A lot of guys do as far as big bore, and start to seat the rounds a little deeper, which is called jamming, and the idea is that the faster the bullet gets out of the
Do you want more stuff? Or do you
round,
want to
the faster it gets into the chamber, the faster it gets down the chamber, etc., etc. And how much difference this makes, I don't know. You'll start to do hotter loads if your range is, now we have one here where the neck did not seat properly because it hadn't been properly sized. I'm going to do that right now. I'm going to be off camera doing that, but I have another press that's set up here, and what we'll do is just run this up through the sizing die, bring it back down, and come back over. That die was a full-length sizing die, sized the neck of the cartridge, and now you can see that it doesn't slide inside there, it just barely seats in there, which is what it's supposed to do. But like I say, sometimes these, when you're processing 1,000 rounds, couple thousand rounds, one of them won't get properly ran through that die. Now, this progressive press that I've got these on, I haven't been using the progressive press to deprime, prime, powder, set the bullet, and crimp the bullet, which is what a progressive press does, because quite frankly, I've never been able to get any one of mine, or this 223 press anyway over here, the Lee 223, to function properly. I can't get the Loadmaster over there, which I've got set up to do most of my pistol rounds. I cannot get it to sync quite right with the setting of the primers. So what I choose to do is use a hand primer, and while I'm sitting around watching a little TV, I'll go ahead and prime up a couple of hundred rounds, and that's no harm, no foul, doesn't hurt anything, and like I say, I'm watching a little TV, killing some time anyway. And that way I know they're properly seated, they're the right depth, they're not turned upside down, they don't roll over, and you can have actually a powder or a primer explode on you on some of these progressives. And I've yet to have one happen on the hand priming. We're coming down to the last couple of ones right now, and I'm quite confident in these myself that I'll take them out and I'll put them into my Colt M4, which is not a cheap firearm, and run them off just as fast as I can. I suggest that if you don't reload, that if you buy reloads from someone, that you buy them from someone that's very reliable, someone you know, somebody you can trust, because you're actually dealing, like I say, with a firearm that's pretty expensive. Alright, now let's just see how much powder we lost out of here. By dropping it on the floor, you see we lost just about all of it. So now we're going to go ahead and put a little bit more powder in the container here. This also is a universal funnel, if you will. It handles an awful lot of different calibers. And Lee also. Reload again with that proper amount. And since we've only got the one piece left, we're going to go ahead and just run it through right quick. And okay, we've completed it now. We'll turn this over a little bit so you can see we've got a pretty good pile of 223 set up there. It's about 50 rounds that we did in a fairly short time. Questions? Comments? Give me a call.